Since the dawn of human civilization, there has been one story that transcends cultures, religions, and epochs: the story of the Garden of Eden. Most of us know it from the Bible, where the garden is depicted as a paradise on earth, the sacred space where humanity's first parents, Adam and Eve, lived in peace and communion with God. In that garden, the first humans were created, and there they were given everything they needed for a life of joy and abundance. But when they ate from the forbidden tree, everything changed. The world as we know it was born, with all its struggles, pain, and loss. Yet, as much as this story resonates with people across the world, one question has continued to baffle scholars and the faithful alike. Where was the Garden of Eden? Where did this divine paradise once stand? Traditionally, the Garden of Eden has been associated with Mesopotamia, the ancient land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is modern-day Iraq. This theory is supported by the mention of these rivers in the Bible, which has led many to believe that Eden must be somewhere near them. But this understanding of Eden's location is not universal. One group of Christians, whose interpretation has often been overlooked, believes that the Garden of Eden lies not in Mesopotamia, but in a much different place, Ethiopia. Today, we will explore this intriguing theory, one that suggests that the true Garden of Eden was located in Ethiopia, around Lake Tana and the Blue Nile River, known in the local language as a bay. The roots of this belief go back centuries and are deeply embedded in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, whose rich tradition and unique biblical texts offer a radically different perspective on the origins of humanity. Join me as we uncover the mysteries of the Garden of Eden and the sacred land where Adam and Eve were believed to have walked, a land that for many remains the birthplace of all humanity. The tradition of Eden's location in Mesopotamia. For many centuries, the most common location for the Garden of Eden has been placed in Mesopotamia, a region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is today modern Iraq. This idea was popularized by the mention of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in the Bible, rivers that were thought to be the lifeblood of the garden itself. In Christian tradition, this view has been upheld as the most accepted understanding of Eden's location, especially in Western theology, from antiquity up to the present day. However, the basis for locating Eden in Mesopotamia has always been questioned. While it is true that these rivers are mentioned in the biblical account of Eden, there are also other rivers, the Pishon and Gihon, which are not always easily identified with any real-world rivers. Some scholars have pointed out that the description of the rivers in the Bible may not correspond to the rivers we know today, suggesting that the Edenic rivers may have been symbolic or were part of a long-lost geography. Thus, the claim that Eden was located in Mesopotamia rests heavily on the interpretation of these rivers. But there is more to the story, and this is where the Ethiopian perspective comes into play. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church and its unique tradition. While many scholars and religious traditions have focused on Mesopotamia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church offers a radically different view. In the ancient traditions of Ethiopia, the Garden of Eden is not in the Middle East, but in the very heart of Africa, Ethiopia itself. This belief is not new, nor is it the result of recent interpretations. It has been an integral part of the Ethiopian Orthodox faith for centuries, preserved through oral traditions, ancient manuscripts, and of course, the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible is unique in the Christian world, containing 88 books as opposed to the 66 books found in the King James Bible. These additional books are known to contain sacred texts that shed light on aspects of the Bible not found in the standard Christian canon. Among these books are ancient writings that describe a completely different view of creation and the Garden of Eden. For the Ethiopian Orthodox, Eden is not a distant, mythical place, but a real, living part of Ethiopia itself. According to these texts, the rivers of Eden, the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates do not refer to the rivers of Mesopotamia, but to the rivers of Ethiopia. Specifically, the Blue Nile, known locally as a bay, is often identified as the main river of Eden. The connection between Eden and Ethiopia is not simply a geographical one, it is deeply spiritual. Ethiopia is seen as the birthplace of humanity, the place where Adam and Eve were created, and the land where God's divine creation first took root, the sacred geography of Lake Tana and the Blue Nile. One of the key locations tied to the Ethiopian Orthodox belief in the Garden of Eden is Lake Tana, the largest lake in Ethiopia. Located in the highlands of northern Ethiopia, Lake Tana is not only a geographic feature, but a sacred body of water that holds immense significance in Ethiopian religious life. It is believed that the Blue Nile, or Abe River, which originates from Lake Tana, is one of the rivers that flowed out of Eden to water the garden. For the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, this river holds a divine connection to the creation story, symbolizing life and sustenance flowing directly from the heart of paradise. Lake Tana is dotted with ancient monasteries that date back over 1,000 years. These monasteries, located on islands and along the shores of the lake, are not only places of worship, but also repositories of ancient knowledge, sacred manuscripts, and relics. They are home to monks who dedicate their lives to preserving the sacred texts of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and maintaining the spiritual traditions of the land. The importance of Lake Tana in the Ethiopian tradition cannot be overstated. It is seen as the very source of life, not just for Ethiopia, but for all of humanity. In many ways, the lake itself is viewed as a reflection of the biblical Garden of Eden, a place where God's divine presence has been made manifest since the beginning of time. The Monastery of Walba and its sacred role. At the center of Lake Tana lies the Monastery of Walba, an ancient and revered site that many Ethiopian Orthodox Christians believe is directly connected to the Garden of Eden. Located on a small island in the middle of the lake, the monastery is known for its isolation and its deep spiritual significance. It is here, according to tradition, that Adam and Eve were created by God, and it is this place that is often identified as the true location of Eden. The Monastery of Walba is a living testament to Ethiopia's rich religious history. It is home to ancient texts, sacred relics, and religious icons that date back centuries. The monks who live at Walba are dedicated to preserving the spiritual heritage of Ethiopia and passing it down to future generations. They are custodians of the knowledge and wisdom that has been handed down through the ages, including the understanding that Ethiopia is the true land of the Garden of Eden. The monastery's isolation in the middle of Lake Tana has added to its mystical reputation. The belief that this is the site of the original Garden of Eden has drawn pilgrims and visitors from around the world. To many, it is not just a religious site, but a place of deep spiritual renewal, a place where heaven and earth meet. The sacred manuscripts and ancient knowledge. Within the Monastery of Walba and other monasteries around Lake Tana, one can find sacred manuscripts that recount the biblical story in ways that differ from traditional Christian texts. These manuscripts are written in Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language of Ethiopia, and they contain knowledge that has been carefully preserved for centuries. Some of these texts are said to describe the creation of the first humans, the formation of the Garden of Eden, and the events that led to humanity's fall from grace. These texts are more than just religious writings. They are the foundation of Ethiopian spirituality and serve as a guide to understanding the divine will. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church teaches that the Garden of Eden was not simply a paradise lost, but a real place with ongoing spiritual significance. The manuscripts and relics found in the monasteries are seen as physical evidence of this sacred history. While the exact contents of these manuscripts may remain largely hidden from the world, the belief in their sacred knowledge has never faltered among the Ethiopian faithful. The Monastery of Walba is considered one of the most important custodians of these texts, and the monks who live there continue to study, copy, and protect these ancient writings. The Blue Nile and the Rivers of Eden. The Blue Nile, or a bay river, is a central feature of Ethiopia's geography. It is the lifeblood of the nation, providing water to millions of people and shaping the land in ways that have been felt for centuries. But in Ethiopian Orthodox thought, the Blue Nile is much more than just a river. It is the very river of Eden, the one that flowed out of paradise to water the garden. The Ethiopian understanding of the rivers of Eden challenges the traditional Western narrative. While the Tigris and Euphrates may dominate the conventional story, the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition teaches that the rivers of Eden correspond to the rivers of Ethiopia. The Pishon and Gihon rivers, which are described in biblical texts, are also believed to be connected to local rivers in Ethiopia. The identification of these rivers with Ethiopia's natural landscape gives the country a unique place in the story of humanity's origins. It is not merely a historical claim, it is a spiritual belief that underpins the Ethiopian Orthodox faith, emphasizing Ethiopia's role as the birthplace of all people. As we have seen, the story of the Garden of Eden is far more complex and rich than most people realize. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church offers a fascinating and ancient perspective on the location of Eden, one that challenges the traditional Western narrative. While Mesopotamia is widely accepted as the location of the Garden of Eden, Ethiopia, with its sacred rivers, ancient monasteries, and spiritual traditions, offers a compelling and deeply rooted alternative. In Ethiopia, the Garden of Eden is not a distant myth, but a living, breathing part of the country's identity. From Lake Tana to the Monastery of Walba, Ethiopia's geography and sacred sites bear witness to the divine connection between humanity and its origins. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the Garden of Eden, let us not forget the rich spiritual heritage of Ethiopia, a land that holds deep knowledge about the beginning of human history and the divine purpose that binds us all. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the hidden truth about the Garden of Eden. May the knowledge and wisdom of Ethiopia continue to inspire us and guide us in our search for truth and understanding.